How did your high school crush turn out as an adult? I don't know about you guys, but I had way too many crushes in high school. My English teacher still looks fine as duck. Became a professional cheerleader. Died of breast cancer at 34. Googling names from high school is crazy. Edit to add, thanks for all the support Reddit family. I'm also surprised how many on here know her, and in a way makes me feel better that such a beautiful girl did make an impact on people's hearts and assured me she is not forgotten. His friend murdered him over a girl. My wife's former crush randomly messaged her on Facebook one day. She ducked him on day 2. She's now my ex-wife. She's jobless living with his mom. And I have the kids. Edit. It would figure that this is my most upvoted post. My kids are 5 and 3, so they don't understand it much, but I'm hoping for the long game when they realize which parent was really there for them. My son still says hurtful things at times, like I don't want to live with you anymore. I want to live with mommy when he's angry. Thank you everyone for making my week. I really needed to smile. It's my son's first week in kindergarten and dealing with her through the process has been hell. My high school ex randomly sent me a text years after we split up that went, I know you don't like metal, but I thought you'd like this, and a link to a clarinet cover of a metal song I played in HS. Little did he know that I hated playing clarinet and I was now a total metalhead. Making me wonder what I ever saw in them. You made me check, and she is actually a very successful artist and an art teacher at a renowned university in France. She even got decorated for her work. Chevalier des Arts et des Lettres. Edit. Thanks for the attention. I'm not really willing to give much more details. I'm just going to add that she's French and she's not teaching in Paris. My only GF in high school was my crush. Her mom banned her from dating me after about a year because my GF admitted to her mom that we were fooling around. This was about 20 years ago. She's still living with her mom. No kids. And as far as I know never again dated seriously after her mom broke us up. Still has the same job from high school too. It's like her mom went way into protective overdrive and my former GF never grew up. Still hot AF. Overdosed and died last year. I got to see him before he was taken off life support with a really good mutual friend we shared. Organ donor too. It was surreal seeing him dwarfed by all these machines. He had one of the largest hearts I've ever come across. Edit. Graduated back in the early 2000s and last year 2019. WTF, is time even anymore? I briefly worked with mine and didn't realize it was her until I left for another job. She looked almost unrecognizable, but it was 15 years after I last saw her. She's married with a couple of kids now, so pretty standard life I guess. Hedge fund manager with a trophy wife. Dead by 32. Drugs. Still a 10 for looks. I'm sure she kept on as the amazing, kind person she is. She moved to another country, speaks multiple languages and is more successful than I imagined. She seems happy, but we haven't talked since the time I told her how I felt about her about 20 years ago. I was a freshman and had a crush on a senior. To add to it, she was a cheerleader and her brother played QB for the football team and got a college scholarship. She showed up at a football game a couple of years later with a baby in tow. She's married now and back in her hometown. That's about all I know. Went on to be a teenage model for hair products. Graduated from Yale. Toured Europe. Opened her own successful ceramics company that is sold worldwide and is often written up in magazines. Makes me feel like it every time I think of her. Still super hot. She married some loser and has a few kids with him. That loser was me. Just celebrated 22 years of marriage. Edit. Cause words are hard. She ended up getting knocked up by a freshman shortly after we graduated. Hot douche who doesn't really do much except go to the gym. To be fair, that's how he was in high school. I just liked it back then. My first high school crush who sat next to me in freshman year English was a really cute punk rock girl, and she's gone on to become an incredibly hot fitness model. Pretty good. Seems to have her life together. Although she had a few setbacks. She's gone back to uni since job prospects in her field kinda sucked. But seems to be really enjoying it. She's dating me though. so clearly her judgment sucks. She's still hot, successful and wealthy entrepreneur, and married someone with the same first name as me and who quit his job to brew beer. I crushed on her for a bit. Didn't think she was interested, so I dated others. Then come to find out she crushed on me senior year. I was too dumb and blind. We connected freshman year of college. She wrote me letters, and by the time I wised up she had moved on. No one to blame but myself. Found her on Tinder. She said I was hot. Pointed out that I was that loser she used to know in high school. Had a big laugh. Been a little over a year. Now we send each other memes and hang out occasionally when the pandemic iced being rich. One I don't keep track of at all. I'm not sure what she's up to. The other I married. She turned out awesome. Going to an all-boys school sucks for having realistic crushes. However, ran into one of the teachers years later and she still looked bellissima. An insanely talented molecular biology researcher at Boston, and she's still insanely attractive. Edit. It looks like a lot of people feel like they know this same person. It's crazy how many molecular biologists people know. Mine was my best friend. She turned out to be a pedophile. She always liked younger guys. Like when she was 17 she had a 13-year-old boyfriend, which was weird, but we were kids and I didn't think about it much. Turns out she continued to like younger teens as she grew into her 20s and 30s. Ended up committing suicide a few years after high school. She was a teacher and got caught having an affair with a female student. Edit. Reddit is weird AF. Some interesting comments here. She worked with the Obama administration. I forgot in what capacity. Got married to some politician's son. Don't remember, don't care to look up. She is happy and that's the only thing that matters. Oh, she was also our school's valedictorian. She was so busy with her job she could not organize a high school reunion, so that's a plus. I wasn't head over heels for her. I admired her but I knew I wasn't for her. Then there's another crush of mine. We ran into each other years after graduation at grocery store. After talking I asked her out to dinner at my house. I pull out all the stops, I buy rainbow trout fillets and make all the fixings. 6:30 rolls around, I open the door and who the hell is this man behind her? Oh, this is my fiance. She tells, neglected to tell me about me. Turns out they wanted to sell me on some MLM thing. She tried to cross the threshold. I put my arm out and asked them politely to leave. I turned away from the door and had my saddest meal I ever ate. Edit. Thanks for the hugs, Reddit family. My friend's high school crush was Tom Holland. Like they went to the same school. Just checking in to confirm that I was no one's high school crush. Carry on. She passed away our senior year. 6 months after she agreed to marry me after we graduated. Found out she was fat and unattractive. Then I realized I was too. About to be my fiancé if all goes well. I had 3. 1 from the first 2 years and 2 from the last 2. The first one is now F2M trans, who walked to Colorado to join a cult commune. He is now in Arizona recording rap albums. The second girl moved to Florida and lives in a swamp. She periodically hits me up to tell me she misses me. How dumb I was that I didn't follow through. That we should get married. The third was a missionary. She wasn't really into it once she grew up. Came back home and I introduced her to one of my closest friends. They've been married for 15 years. 0/3. There was a girl I really admired for a while. She didn't really give me the time of day after freshman year though. She was co-valedictorian and hugged me as I crossed the stage at graduation, and no one else got one. I'm still really confused about that 6 years later. She went on to med school and is either married or at least engaged to a guy she met there. Overall she's doing really well, and I'm happy for her. Edit. Thanks for all the warm wishes and thoughts. Guys, I'm just happy for her, and glad she's doing well. I never made a move in high school. About 7 years after graduating, I saw her on social media and said what the hell and asked her out. I've been dating for about 2 years and I'm about to pop the big question. They both ended up as great guys. One has a huge family and is a minister. The other only has 1 child and is a college professor. Both married nice people and are happy. They were really good guys in high school and ended up being really good adults. I've got both of them on Facebook and we keep in touch peripherally as we stayed friends over the years. I remember walking up to her and asking if we could talk in private. And she said you can say what you need in front of everyone. Her group of friends were all around. So I asked if she wanted to go on a date. She burst out laughing and said yeah. No. It was rough, man. Looked her up last year and she's a cage fighter now. What? Still cute as heck. One of the kindest and most sensitive people I know. And still one of my best friends 15 years later. He's also recently divorced. His wife was gay but needed time and support to come to terms with it. And now he and I are slowly testing the waters. What started as a crush has matured into a deep and rich friendship. And so however it may unfold, so I'm so grateful to have that relationship in my life. I had a few in high school. One ended up moving away after sophomore year and no one knew why. She reached out to me when I had a mental breakdown online and said that she could understand what I was going through. Some ducked up had happened to her, though she never said what specifically. I didn't ask further because it wasn't my business to pry. I'm not sure how she is now. Another got super hot after high school and she did a degree in science. Again, not sure where she is now, but I think she's doing alright. And the third works at a bank. We ended on bad terms. Partially my fault. I found out she was making fun of me behind my back and had done so for months beforehand, so I sent her an angry message. Haven't seen her since then. Haha, my husband. Our first marriages didn't work out and we reconnected after our divorces. If only I would have confessed I had a crush on him in high school. Might have saved myself a lot of trouble. Lol. Edit. Thanks for the awards, everyone. Very well. He joined the military and served for a number of years, was in after Vietnam and out before the Gulf War, so I'm not sure if he actually saw much active duty, and then settled in Korea where he trained in Taekwondo and did a lot of professional fighting, and won a lot of awards, attained the rank of Grandmaster and returned to the US and opened a very successful school that specializes in TKD and Hapkido, has opened additional locations, and is currently looking to open one in our old hometown. I imagine that will happen post-COVID. I had several. One of them is still a close friend, and he became a primary care doctor. He also officiated my wedding. I have no idea what happened to another one. He didn't really have overlapping friend groups and she doesn't do social media. One of them is a math professor now, so that's pretty cool. My biggest crush in high school was my longtime neighbor, but it also fizzled out pretty quickly after we went to homecoming together. We're still good friends, and our families still keep in touch. He's also the guy who introduced me to my husband. She turned out great. She married me. We actually met in kindergarten. They're all stunning and wildly successful. One in particular was a crush with a similar name to mine dating back from my elementary school, which turned out to be the longest crush, an entire decade, I've ever had. And still appearing in a looping dream sequence to this day, especially after that bitter and frankly traumatic rejection before we parted ways when I confessed to her. At that point we were classmates for 5 years and were going to different schools. After the separation, that's when the dreams began, and every time I woke up I'm feeling emotional all over again. Took me another painful 5 years before I stopped crushing on her, but the dreams never stopped. Just last week I had an update to the dream sequence where we actually talked for the first time in a decade of Groundhog Day levels of dreams. I know, it's pathetic. Life updated on that particular crush. She's currently aspiring to be an architect and had an equally cool boyfriend, so I doubt she ever looked back on her past as much as I do. I recently tried to follow her on her socials to get a life update from herself, but she won't accept my requests, so I won't gonna force her. Back when I was younger and crushing hard, I got on AOL Instant Messenger and had gotten my crush's screen name from a friend. I worked up the nerve to start a conversation with him, and soon after some awkward small talk he sent me a message in Comic Sans, black background, red lettering, and in French. I then went to Google for translation and found out he had just called me a pig, in French. Being a seemingly awkward and chubby teenager, I was literally crushed. The heartbreak was only made worse by remembering that a few weeks prior I had selected to take French class the next year and couldn't change it. Years later, now that I've blossomed, he follows me on every social media platform. Has reached out a couple of times to try and flirt, hang out. Hard pass. I believe he's moved away and is a teacher now. She was aware then, over 30 years ago, but it was unrequited. We've been in casual contact through Facebook for the past several years, and once before that my wife, at the time, and I had her and her husband over for dinner. From what I can tell, she's grown into a person I probably would have been happy with. It's nice to see my high school perspective got a few things right. I think we'd be good friends if we lived closer. She appears to be living a good life with her husband and family. With my second wife, I'm happier than I could have ever imagined. Life worked out well. He's an attractive gay man. I am none of those things. She has a dog and I don't. Turns out he's gay and got fired from a teaching job for having inappropriate relationships with his male students. Edit. I should clarify that to my knowledge he was not ducking the students, but he was caught sending lewd text messages and whatnot. Turns out I was attracted to losers and burnouts, lol. That hasn't changed much. We reconnected through Facebook, though I can't stand FB anymore, when in our late 40s, and now she is my wife. She's still beautiful. She's a TikTok influencer who shaved off her eyebrows and draws symbols on her face. Yeeeoah. She married some idiot and had my babies. Began acting. It's weird. Every so often I'll see a commercial or something and be like, oh, hey, I know them. My crush is an incredibly sweet person, so I'm glad. One is still active duty in the military and she has a very successful career as an officer. I hope she continues to be. The other is successful in the arts and I hope she continues to be that as well. Both are married to others who treat them well. I'm happy that they are both happy. My life is still going good here, so I have no hard feelings. I met her in 1987. We got married 5 years ago. We used to go to the same punk shows. That's where met. He had a roller coaster of a life. I admire him more than ever, and more than most people I know, but can't wrap my head around why I ever found him physically attractive. Maybe it was always just his heart. By age 25, he had a PhD, a wife, and was a captain in the Navy. By 30, he had 2 PhDs, a small business where he made a metric ass ton of money, and his wife was pregnant. By 31 he was diagnosed with stage 4 skin cancer that swiftly spread to his lymph nodes, bones, esophagus, and a few other places. He was told he had minimal chance of making it 5 more years. Even with the best health insurance money can buy, it still basically wiped him out. 7 years later, he's living a comfortable but not extravagant life as a civilian contractor for the Navy. Same wife and 2 happy healthy kids, and spends most of his free time advocating for better public health care. Multiple degrees, on track to being a full-time educator, mother of 2, and my wife. I'm so lucky. Turned out to be gay, so did I. Worked out perfectly. I had 2 unrealized crushes in high school. One is a teacher and musician. She is married and has either 1 or 2 kids. We've kept in loose contact via social media and ran into each other at a night party shortly before she got married. I was introduced to her now husband as favorite ex ever. He seemed like a decent dude and I'm happy for her. I believe the other became a US attorney. I have not heard from her since Google Plus almost became a social media thing. I imagine she's still very productive and would be disappointed in my life choices. One of them is homeless and a druggie. It's very sad. The other one is famous in his home country, is a best-selling author, and is regularly on TV. Don't have a crush on him anymore, but I'm glad we are still friends. And I'm happy for how well he's done. I guess they balance one another out. Harvard, degrees in writing and medicine, became a leading surgeon in a major city. Extremely proud of her. Always had her on a pedestal. I guess with good reason. NASA. The guy I crushed on for 2.5 years did not end up turning out great. I'm still friends with his younger sister. So I know that he recently acquired his third DUI and his second divorce. He's currently living in his friend's basement and occasionally works for his friend's moving company as a mover. But only when he feels like it. He spends all his money on booze and owes the two moms of his 5 kids tons of child support. But man, was he hot in high school. My second crush in high school is the only reason I got over my first crush. He's currently doing great. Mostly because he gets to be married to me for going on 20 years. D. She committed suicide. Found out later she had a crush on me too. Duck life sometimes. Oh, one I can comment on. To be honest, this is more junior high crush than high school, but the story stands back on my first day of 7th grade. I had just moved up to a new school and I met a girl named Charlie. Well, Charlie had a twin, whose name was Christine. Charlie insisted on introducing me to Christine and yelled at her to come across the lunch area to us. Christine was very clumsy and tripped and almost landed on top of me. I fell head over heels. I however was way too afraid to say anything. A few years later, I get out of the Navy and go home and need a place to stay for a few days. Charlie offers Christine's spare room. I moved in and in the middle of the night I saw Christine for the first time since 2007 and my jaw dropped. She was always attractive, but I guess she became a health nut after having 2 kids with her ex. Instantly, crush reappeared, but this time I had the post-Navy confidence and said something. Turned out she fell for me back in 2007 on that day too, but she was quite scared and nervous. Within a week of moving in we were dating. It's been almost 4 years. And we have added 2 more kids to the lot. Please send help, so many kids lol. Still very much in love and happy. She turned out great. A wonderful, smart, caring woman who is a sucker for dumplings and cheesy romances. Edit. Thanks for the award. My first one. Edit 2. Electric Boogaloo. Thank you again for all the awards and comments. My wife enjoyed reading all your comments and teased me for the umpteenth time about being too chicken when we were kids.